And what was your take from all that? I mean, you were taking the position. Well, you tell us your position and his position.
I debate with religious people all the time. Mention Tariq Ramadan, Rabbi Shmuley, all kinds of people. I've debated since I became sick. Blair is of course a new convert to Roman Catholicism. So I wanted to question a bit about that. And then one can only do one thing at a time, usually in these debates. And the point I wanted him to concede was that the evils that people like myself speak about when we talk about religion, he will always, and his co-thinkers will always acknowledge, and they'll say this was done in the name of religion. And I said, no, you must drop that. There is scriptural warrant and authority very clearly in the holy books, which are supposed to be the word of God, for these evils. So it's a cop-out, to use a vulgarity, to say it's in the name of. You can't just say it's a parody of. You have to face the responsibility. Well, in fact, when we were asked by one questioner to say what had been the strongest point made by the other, he said that he agreed that I was right, that the problem is that there is scriptural authority for a great deal of atrocity and cruelty and stupidity in the holy books. So that's my best memory of the evening, I suppose. When I asked him, I opened with a long quotation from Cardinal Newman, whose beatification he'd just recommended to the Pope and supported. A very wicked, in my view, quotation from Newman's Apologia. And then I wanted to know whether he thought the Pope was the Vicar of Christ on earth, whether the Catholic Church was the one true church. It was quite strange. He didn't come up to the scratch to fight me on that. You could not have told from anything he said that he was a Roman Catholic at all. He could have been a very weak sort of Christian socialist liberal who basically says that Christianity is okay because it makes people do good works and give money to charity, which is, no one denies is true, but has nothing to do with the relevance or the truth of the matter. So, but he's a man with whom I sympathize in other ways, and who I've known a little bit for quite a long time. So it was an unusually interesting debate. Excuse me. Sorry, Brian. Just have a sip here. My medicine.
You and the first interview I ever conducted with you was on November the 7th, 1983.
I remember it was the winter of '83.
Call-in show.
Yes.
And I want to just run, it's a minute, 24 seconds, and then we'll talk about this.
All right.
When journalists lose their credibility, and I think in this country journalists have lost their credibility based upon their past performances, the American people are speaking out now. And I just feel that without no type of checks and balances on the journalists, they're doing exactly what this gentleman's doing here. They bring a foreign news agent over into the country, okay, report on all the faults, okay, but don't take a deep enough look at the positive aspects of what a free press really is.
I'm getting fed up with this kind of questioning, actually. I mean, 30 miles from north of Philadelphia as you are, how do you presume to know that the American people are speaking out? To the extent that you do know, or to the extent that you can speak for them, no, you can only know it through reading a free press and watching a free TV. The truth is that the papers are reporting the fact that they're unpopular with the administration, and the column with which David began, Luke Cannon's column today, says he admits it's true that public opinion is probably on Reagan's side on this one. But if you want your press to be treated as the British treated their press in the Falklands, you're going to end up not knowing very much about what's going on. If that's what you want, don't read the papers, but do not prevent me or anyone else from reading them.
Well, you can see how times have changed from that clip. There you were on our set smoking.
Yes. I was doing that till quite late on. I forget when it stopped.
I can't remember when we...
It's incredible now when I see, as one often does, that shot of Walter Cronkite announcing the president's death in Dallas in '63. The whole studio looks like Chernobyl. The ashtrays stretching as far as the eye can see.
And I also appreciated you calling me David on that show. It kind of was humbling.
Well, it's the name, was then the name of the very distinguished Los Angeles Times Africa correspondent,
Ah, that was the reason.
David Lamb.
Yeah. Anyway,
Sorry, all the same. I think it's very important to get people.
oh, it's fun to see this for both of us go back at that time. But
Oh.
you know, in those days, you were there's a lot of bravado about smoking and drinking. And for the first book notes book we did, I went with you to a bar,
I remember.
and you had your computer and a glass of something and a cigarette.
Yeah, I used to write my columns in Timberlake's bar on Connecticut Avenue.
Do you ever think that all this wouldn't have happened without that? And did your father smoke? Is that where he
Yeah,
got
my father was a pipe smoker and a reasonably consistent drinker too. And I can't but think that that's what contributed to it. We didn't learn much from his death, my brother and I, because he was diagnosed and died almost right away. We didn't find out much about. I know it was lower down than where mine is, and probably inoperable then. But it wasn't a teaching moment.
By the way, is yours inoperable?
Well, it couldn't. Yes, it can't be cut out. No, it's spread.
Metastasized.
Yeah, it's spread. It can't be cut out, and it's too near my lungs and my heart to be properly radiated. So it has to be chemo and/or targeted gene therapy.
But over those years when you were smoking,
So to answer your question, of course, I always knew that there's a risk in the bohemian lifestyle, and I decided to take it because whether it's an illusion or not, I don't think it is. It helped my concentration. It stopped me being bored. It stopped other people being boring to some extent. It would keep me awake. It would make me want the evening to go on longer, to prolong the conversation, to enhance the moment. If I was asked, would I do it again? The answer is probably yes. I'd have quit earlier, possibly, hoping to get away with the whole thing. Easy for me to say, of course. Not very nice for my children to hear. It sounds irresponsible if I say, yeah, I'd do all that again to you. But the truth is, it would be hypocritical for me to say, no, I'd never touch the stuff if I'd known. Because I did know. Everyone knows. And I decided all of life is a wager. I'm going to wager on this bit. And I can't make it come out any other way. It's strange. I almost don't even regret it, though I should. Because it's just impossible for me to picture life without wine and other things fueling the company and keeping me reading and traveling and energizing me. It worked for me, it really did.
what over the years has bored you? You use that word more than once in your writing.
Yes. Well, it's a vice, of course. Accidia, I think it's actually one of the deadly sins. Boredom, well, it's the anteroom to despair. It's sort of the feeling that, anomie, that nothing's interesting. Nothing's worth. I'm too prone to it. I get easily tired of I don't know, committee meetings, or not that I have to do many of those, or waiting in line, or I'm a very, very impatient person. And I'm very happy by myself. I'm lucky in that way. If I've got enough to read and something to write about, and a bit of alcohol for me to add an edge, not to dull it. It's been a formula.
During this time of your illness, how have you passed the time? And have you had a lot of pain during this time?
Yes. Well, especially before I found out it was the gallbladder, not the side effects, I was becoming worried that I was overdoing the painkillers. I actually, it should have been the other way around, but I said to the doctors, look, I'm in danger of living from pill to pill. I surely shouldn't be taking this much morphine or codeine-based stuff. I was beginning to feel woozy. But I'd like to think that the gallbladder was the cause of that, because before then the pain hadn't been all that acute. It was quite dealable with, quite manageable. It became unbearable.
When we're talking, how many days ago did you have your gallbladder out?
10, I think. 8 or 10.
And did you have the laparoscopic?
Yes, it was all over very quickly once they found it.
And do you feel better because of it?
Not yet, because the general anesthetic takes a long time to to wear off. At least it has with me, given how weak I was already and how much weight I've lost and how little food I've been taking. I couldn't have done this yesterday, for example.
Really?
No, absolutely not. I could hardly get out of bed.